it's just not Consensys. Any ecosystem player who wants to be successful, definitely needs presence in India, right? Because it's a no-brainer for any software development company, just not the crypto company, right? Just any software development company needs to have a presence in India because of the nature of work and the skill set that we have in India.
Awesome.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of the Web3 Normies podcast with Raghu and I. We have with us today Vijay Krishnan, who is the Director of Technology at Consensys. For those who don't know, Consensys is a blockchain technology firm primarily focused on the Ethereum blockchain. Of course, we'll hear a lot more about that from Vijay. But Vijay, thanks a lot for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
I think we can dive straight into it, right? So Vijay, you are an expert on the enterprise side. So, you've been at IBM, Bank of America, AWS, and now at Consensys, right? So would love to understand your background in terms of how you, navigated through all of these firms and the thesis of why you joined Consensys at the end of it.
Sure. The storytelling is always exciting, right? Whenever you speak, and I've told this story a few times. I will share it again. See, I've been a hardcore techie from the beginning, right? So right from the Y2K times. So that's when I started. If you guys really want to know when I started working. So I've been in the banking fintech industry, mostly corely focused on financial services, especially working in Wall Street. Literally, Wall Street used to be my lunch place for like 15 years, right? So that kind of a hardcore financial tech background. And I've done like pretty exciting work. Nothing to complain, with the banks and fintechs. They've been always, my go-to solutioning. Whenever there's a problem. So one fine day, I was sitting in Charlotte on a Sunday. One of the executives was like asking me to take up an innovation division, setting up, with Bank of America. So the role that they gave me was to lead the robotic process automation project. The other option was blockchain. So I started looking into robotic process automation, and I never got interested because I used to do a lot of gray hat or black hat SEO way back in 2000s. So it was
And when was this? When was this entire discussion?
It's 2016. 2016.
Okay.
Right, somewhere early summer 2000. I'll say like spring 2016. Then I jumped into blockchain. I read about Bitcoin, for a week. Nothing went inside my head. Then at the time, Ethereum was just coming up, and Ethereum had at least some kind of programming in it, which was called smart contracts. And I was like, okay, what is smart about this? That was triggered me. You won't believe, in 3 days, I was running a mining rig in my apartment.
3 days.
So
Wow.
Just 3 days, right? So there was only one guide, available in the internet. Very easy to set up. I went to the nearest Best Buy, bought some, a motherboard, GPUs, and then which is like very easily available at the time. No restrictions. So in 3 days, I was able to set up a rig, and to get the rig working, it took me like 2 weeks. The hardware part was much easier than the software part because very limited knowledge. So that kind of gave me an idea about, okay, what is this new thing, a way to earn money? I was looking at more about, another alternative way of earning money when sitting in a bank, where we do structured finance, right? So this kind of perception, without a bank account, without a network, without an identity, how do you make a transaction? That kind of like was very curious to me. And my first transaction was roughly after like 2.5 months. I had like a bunch of cryptos, Ethereum cryptos at the time. Pretty easy, right? 5 cryptos, 5 Ethereum a day. Who will comply? And I had like no other way to spend them. So I found a way to spend that crypto to buy 17 videos about Ethereum. How to write smart contracts, how to deploy them. There was nothing on that time.
Wait, you had
it
to
was
pay
again
for these videos? You had to pay for these videos
yes,
back then?
I have to pay for
Wow.
this. 7.8 Ether is what I pay at the time. Dirt cheap. Believe me, I mean, when you compare now, it was like dirt cheap. So that actually gave me a whole different perception of what the future is going to look like. I was just sitting in front of the computer, a wallet, nothing else. I had a web page, open it up. Metamask was, the initial version of Metamask was there. Using that Metamask wallet, paying for the transaction using signing, and I don't know what happened at the time, to be very honest, but I got access to the video. It was like, okay, this looks interesting. So then I started jumping in and never looked back. So this was my entry into blockchain and crypto, but I didn't stay on the crypto side much because the tech was fascinating and I want to go deep dive into tech. That's my entry into blockchain and crypto way back in 2016. So then, IBM was hiring. I was looking for, doing more work in blockchain. I joined IBM. I was forming practice at the time. It's 7, 8 members at the time. When I went in, I found an opportunity, to really make a difference. So I took over the architecture, wing of the GBS, Global Blockchain, not Global Blockchain, Global Business Services Consulting Division, and set up the North America architecture practice for blockchain. Done around 70, 80 projects, small, medium, large, extra large, some of the large ones you might have heard in the industry and all that. Did some exciting work, during IBM. Set up one of the largest infrastructure for blockchain so far, with 32 nodes, 16 organizations, the entire Wall Street watching me giving a demo in California. Also did Visa's first blockchain platform, which is Visa B2B payment platform, which actually gave in a product idea for IBM. A lot of that work that I did with the project became a lot of features in the IBM blockchain platform as a product. So that is my actual entry into real contributing into something more core and becoming a probably a micro mini icon at the time in the industry in the enterprise blockchain. So then a lot of projects, a lot of travel, a lot of things, and AWS was closely following me to join them at the time. Then COVID hit me. I was stuck actually in India. I was finding it very hard to work remotely. Then they gave me like, okay, join us, work remotely. So during pandemic, I moved to AWS. And with AWS, a slightly different role, setting up the global partner ecosystem, making partners do blockchain work on AWS. So onboarded around 15 partners, me and my partner, and launched a couple of products, one for Chainlink, one for R3 Coda, pretty successful products even now. And that actually gave me an authority in the industry, right? Being an advocate and more like a CTO on the blockchain for AWS. It gave me an authority to go and talk to more than 300 CXOs in the world, and that actually set up my brand, for success. And also protocol agnostics. That was something I like, because you can talk freely about any protocol in comparison. Really being that advocate, gain that trust with the CXOs and help them drive success. Then there was something always missing. Cloud is good, everything is fine. There's less and less blockchain work, more and more cloud work. Did fascinating work. There's no doubt about it. But Consensys was right around my corner all the time because I used to talk to them every day on the partner basis. So then I approached Consensys that, hey, can I join? It's just more like going back to the mothership after a few years. So then they said, okay, come in, always welcome. I used to directly work with some of the CXOs there. So it was a pretty easy journey for me. At the same time, very responsible job, because Consensys was trying to get into the enterprise space when I joined them a year and a half back. And, did a lot of work. In fact, even though my title says the director of technology, and I'm part of the strategic sales team, trying to bridge the gap, what Consensys had at the time, talking the right language, right, a technical jargon, right kind of balance between the technical and the business aspects, especially working with large banks and fintechs and the retail companies. So that's where I am. And right now I'm doing a new role, more like heading the global technical pre-sales and architecture for the entire sales team.
That's awesome, Vijay. Just out of curiosity, now that you made mining Ethereum to enterprise blockchain to back to something that is core Ethereum. What do you think has changed between 2017 Ethereum to where it is right now?
See, I think a lot have changed, right? See, in 2017, when I did the largest, enterprise blockchain infrastructure, I spent like 4 weeks just writing scripts, right? Uh, because there is no guidance. You need to learn. If you found something working, you just keep repeating. There is no efficient way of doing, anything. So in 5 years, the platform has matured as a whole, right? Many blockchains, including the enterprise blockchains. Ethereum has proved itself, doing more than $1 trillion worth of settlements in the DeFi space, as well as regular transactions. The new concepts like NFTs have really proven that okay, there is more to blockchain, right? Where common users can get benefited, and the maturity in the technology, the innovation like the merge, which happened last September, with a seamless upgrade of n number of nodes, because I come from a banking infrastructure, right? For us to upgrade certain critical applications infrastructure, we take like 3 years of planning, even though it took us similar, but the scale is like probably 1,000 times, right? So I think there's a lot that has changed, and also now there are like more experts in the industry. There are people who have matured. There are like innovation happening every day, and I think there's no more scarcity of information and ways to learn. You used to struggle to learn how to write smart contract and debug a smart contract way back. So now it's just all in your fingertips. A lot of
That's
change.
awesome. That's awesome.
I mean, to me, as we are here today, it feels, I keep saying this, that we have pretty much hit the point of no return. In 2017, I don't think that may have been as much the case, but now, like with all this network proliferating, I think we have pretty much crossed the Rubicon. If you had tried MetaMask in 2017 or 16, as you said, you're probably like within the first 100 or 1,000 users, definitely, of MetaMask. So you were destined to be here.
Yeah, but see, believe me, there's only like one tab, and I vaguely remember, I have some screenshots, and if I go back to my recorded presentations, I have some screenshots put in the presentation, so I can really see, what was the initial version of the MetaMask and how it operated and all that. So, but I'm happy, I'm part of the team now.
Wonderful. Yeah, I mean, I guess this is a good segue to kind of, enter into Consensys as well. Now, I mean, Consensys itself is a massive beast, right? And I don't think we can do justice in kind of trying to explain what Consensys is. So why don't you, give us like a few minutes download on what Consensys is, the product, and like where do you fit within that overall organization as well?
Sure. So I think the Consensys as a whole has gone through a lot of, ups and downs journey, forming new companies and all that. I'll just keep it very simple. There are two companies which is called Consensys. So one is Consensys Mesh, the other one is Consensys Software Inc. So what is the difference? So the initial version of Consensys is all part of the Consensys Mesh, which is the common company for building startups, including funding, venture capitalists, everything put together, right? There are like probably 20 companies even today. And during 2019, 2020, Joseph Lubin, who is the founder of both the companies, identified all the best performing product. It doesn't mean that not other products are not performing well, so he actually identified products which will form a full stack for a blockchain company. And then he moved all these products into the Consensys Software Inc. and registered a new company. And then that's where, we all belong now. See, the company size is around 850 people now. Some of the products you may already know, MetaMask. So we also have another Fox called Blue Fox, which is the MetaMask institutional, just the institutional grade, for MetaMask. And going down the layer, we have a lot of protocol, which I may not be going in depth, but I'll just mention some of them. The next in pipeline is the node as a service, which is Infura, which we'll talk in detail. And we do have a few products which are sunset called Codify suite of products for tokenization. A lot of other things which are like open source now. If you search for Codify, you'll see a bunch of projects have been open sourced because we are moving away from all that work. So then staking, we do have Codify staking, which is one of the key service that we provide. for large customers and small customers. We also have protocol, like I mentioned. We are the primary source contributors and maintainers for Besu, which is the Ethereum client, and also Teku, the newer Ethereum client, which is also used for staking, and also GoQuad, which we took over from JP Morgan Chase. Right? We still maintain all the three projects as a primary code committers and maintainers. So going down the stack, if you look as a whole, we have like something at every layer for a full scale blockchain development work. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, this is pretty much the stack when we talk about what we do here, and of course the initial dev tool that rocked the world, Truffle. So Truffle also is part of the company, and one of the most critical functions in any blockchain company is the smart contract auditing. So we have a division called diligence, so which does all the physical smart contract audits. When I say physical, we do have automated tools for doing audits, but we do like one-on-one, code reviews and sitting with the developers who wrote the code to give you a complete report on, how they can improve, writing the smart contracts and what are the potential improvements or errors that possible for the current code. And Uniswap, Filecoin, these are some of the protocols that has gone through this program with diligence. So this is as a whole is a stack. So right now, the company is focusing on two things. One is developer experience or developer related product, or it's called also like developer united. The other one is direct users. Of course, the wallet infrastructure falls into the direct users because there is no other play in that. So MetaMask institutional, all that fall into the direct users. And rest of the tool plays, tool sets, including Infura, Diligence, Truffle, in the newest release called MetaMask Snaps, which is also part of MetaMask. So these are some of the stacks that we have. So primary focus is like direct users and developer users. It's a fork, but very closely associated.
Got it.
I was just about to ask, like, how do you manage a product suite this large? Right, like this is because I don't I presume that it is a mid-sized team at Consensys, but at the same time, just managing all the products that you listed may have been maybe quite tedious. So, is there a common theme? But I think, like you said, the user and developer focus is perhaps buckets the two products in an interesting way for you to be able to at least set priorities.
Yes, it's not easy, right? Because I think I mentioned 850. Out of that, 500 are definitely engineers, because we need definitely that kind of manpower behind the scenes to do the proper roadmaps, commit to the deadlines, and make sure stable products follow all the engineering best practices. I mean, this is a typical challenge every company has to go through.
It's a very hardcore enterprise kind of a unit, right? And that is I guess, DNA that runs through the entire organization as well, especially when you handle such a vast suite of products as well. So again, the vision for Consensys here, right? So you guys are very closely integrated to Ethereum as a blockchain, right? And EVM technically. So is it like, okay, there is this blockchain, which is, there's a thing under the hood, and then there are users, right? And then there is everything in between in terms of infrastructure that needs to get built. There is this RPC layer, there is this data layer, then there is application layer, and then users, right? Is Consensys like looking at how do I bridge this entire gap as a product suite? So, I can connect the chain to the users and everything else is abstracted along the way.
Yes, I think, if you look at the product set that I mentioned, it kind of already does, right? Metamask is probably the easiest example I can talk about, right? So with Metamask, you can actually literally do any of the EVM chains. So late last summer, we announced something called Metamask Snaps, right? So which is more like I know I'm jumping a little ahead, but I also want to answer this in a right context. So the way we look at is, there's a lot of wallets getting built around, EVM and non-EVM chains, claiming, multi-chain capability and all that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, which we have been doing for more than 6-7 years now. And we want to see, what is next for the wallet infrastructure. What could be the future for the wallet infrastructure, or future of wallets, right? What is it going to be? I think this is the idea about snaps. So imagine, a platform like iPhone is given to you, right? And you start using the iPhone apps, right? So this similarly, we are giving you MetaMask as the platform, similar to the iPhone. And what we are trying to get into is more like an app community for MetaMask. That means we will provide every capability on MetaMask for you to build apps on top of MetaMask. So why should we do it? Why can't we do it? If we do something like this, probably we can do like 20, say worst case 200 applications a year, but we want the community to do it the way they like it. Right, and this is again the same model, iPhone or any other devices, this current world follows, right? They provide the platform and let the community build on top the way they want it. Similar to that, we also going to the same model. And what this will do is open up a lot of new ways of doing business on top of MetaMask. So right now, everybody wants to integrate with MetaMask, talk with MetaMask, partner with MetaMask, and all that. So this is one way I can see, where we are already leaping into the future on how a particular wallet infrastructure or a wallet usage will be completely different from the rest of the wallet available in the industry. And I think so far we have seen roughly around 200 snaps of various sorts. So snaps will let you develop your own functionality on top of MetaMask, including cross chains, non-EVM chains. Doing a Solana transaction was one of the first thing that I witnessed in Snap. Bitcoin Snap exists now. Starkware Snap exists now. If you have an API, which you want to share with MetaMask, but make some money out of it, you can develop a snap on top of MetaMask, and then build a monetization model around it, and then start working towards a better future. This is exactly where we are going. Similarly, we are focusing on every layer, right? So this is the user layer that I talked about. So with Infura, which is again one of our best performing product from an node as a service, we started looking at how do we move into a more decentralized approach. I think these are some of the initiatives that we are already thinking, how we can be the example in this community or in this ecosystem to set up the future.
Nice.
That's really exciting. You are just on double clicking on the MetaMask application interface that you were speaking about. What are some use cases that you are really excited about, that you are already seeing or are yet to come?
Sure. So let just to do a 2-minute deep dive into snaps. When I saw the snaps first time, my only use case I could remember was, okay, how can I change the fox's face?
I like the fox's face. It's really cute.
No, man, it's
an icon now,
right?
Yeah.
So I was looking at ways to do it, but then I learned that, okay, that is not what snaps can do, right? So it's like you're trying to replace Apple's logo in an iPhone, right? That's not what Apple wants you to do. So I saw like few use cases, right, straight away. One is transaction insights. So right now, MetaMask provides some insights, but not to the level that a user may like, a newbie may like, right? Some of the user experiences. So you may want to have a custom confirmation, or want to have a custom pricing with 6 different decks when you're doing a swap. Apart from what MetaMask is suggesting, that's the second use case. Security, right? If you're transacting with a third party with an unknown address, is this address legitimate? Giving the customer the confidence to use MetaMask, and not only MetaMask, be an ecosystem participant and do a transaction comfortably, right? So insights about a particular address, insight about a particular contract. Okay. I also seen some examples, where you can put a tiny bit of data into a snap, and data can be shared via the snap to another account. So more like micro data exchange. Right. There are like more use cases like this coming up. So today also somebody pinged me and said, "Hey, we developed this snap. It's just like going into OpenSea and then buying an NFT, and the NFT just got launched, but it's already like so expensive. Why it is so expensive? So they have developed a wash trading API behind the scenes. Behind the scenes is saying, okay, how many times this NFT has been wash traded already to increase the value of the NFT. So which is very fascinating, right? If we have to do all these things, it'll take like years for us to do it.
Yeah,
So
completely agree.
instead, we come to you, to find the right use case for you and your company or the developers, which they feel right, and then build on top of the MetaMask.
We are already seeing that, like especially in
Mm.
in the Builderscribe ecosystem, there have been some startups that are using the same forward security solution that you're talking about, but with the mindset of increasing the mindset of kind of making MetaMask more usable. So
Mhm.
it kind of transcribing it, putting it in like plain English and things like that. So
Yep.
you're right. I think the decision of opening it up to the community, especially with user-based sort of thing that MetaMask already has, it opens up so many cool possibilities. This wash trading one was damn interesting. Do share it with us after this call. We'd love to, we'd
Sure,
love to
sure.
deep dive more. Yeah.
I mean, it looks like, MetaMask is like a super app on its own, and then Snaps is like kind of an app store within it, right? So, and then you have this entire tooling and plumbing because you have your, entire data architecture as well to do a lot of analytics on top of this. Is that like a right mental model to think of MetaMask in terms of its future, like a super app and then an app store and like a lot of applications come out of it? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Because right now, if you see how MetaMask operates, right, it's a client-side application, right? It has a little bit of a SaaS component which is behind the scenes, but predominantly it's a client-side application. So we don't want to control anything that is happening on the client side except the core functionality of MetaMask, similar to what iPhone does, right? The core platform.
Yeah.
So similar to that, users can decide to create something on top the way they want it. But the core functionality will never change. It's more like added functionality. I think you just summarized it well. Yeah.
Got it. And do you guys plan on like oh yeah, since you mentioned like a Solana snap and a Bitcoin snap, right? What does that exactly mean? Is this your way of going non-EVM as well? I
Yes.
would love to understand what, like in an example, right? What does that exactly mean?
So this is exactly when the discussion started, right? So a lot of wallets claim that they are like multi-chain, multi-chain compatible and all that. How many chains can a wallet keep adding, right? So tomorrow there are like 200 chains. You need to start building integrations for 200 chains. So it's not a scalable. Forget about scalable. It's not a maintainable model. You can start building those integrations, right, one by one. And who knows? Tomorrow this could be the new economic model that where you or I and maybe our kids are going to do every transaction they do in the lifetime. So in that case, current ecosystem and the model is not scalable. So this is actually going to enable a newer way to actually do it much simpler, right? I mean, there could be a lot of other innovative ways to do it, but we found, similar to the iPhone and Windows success. If you start, letting people develop on top of one platform, make sure the platform is solid, then the result is like already proven. That's exactly why you are going in this model.
Interesting. Want to just spend a couple of minutes on like this new not it's not new technically, it's old, but it's kind of like gathered a lot of steam. This is called account abstraction, right? And MetaMask is more on like the non-custodial externally owned accounts, and then AA is like the new theme, right? How are you guys looking at this? Do you think that becomes like a very big thing? And like how does MetaMask also solve for account abstraction in due course, if that is kind of the plans for you guys?
See, I mean, if you ask me, I actually think account abstraction is already taking place. Using namespaces, right? Or using ENS and unstoppable domains, namespaces and domain names. It's actually easy to remember your account address rather than 0x whatever, right? It's already one level ahead of when you talk about abstraction. But this is only for the majority of the community where people are not tech savvy. And I think account abstraction is definitely going to make a lot of non-technical people or non crypto friendly people who thinks it's very difficult to operate are going to come into this space and operate very freely, right? I think that's where we are right now, right? Okay, account abstraction seems to be the way to go, but again, we don't have enough evidence that will solve every other problem in the world that we have now with respect to how easy it will be to use cryptos for a normal or a common man. But definitely, it looks very, very promising from what we see.
Got it. And do you guys have like any plans of integrating this at a protocol level when it gets ready, or like creating like an AA specific smart contract based wallet, etc.? Or are you going to stick to MetaMask as it is in its current shape and form?
See, with respect to the roadmap, probably it's like overflowing, right? With the amount of things that we want to do, right? And I think this is where the snaps kind of feature is really coming in very handy. Now, if there is a snaps capability that can be built on the top, then we don't have to wait for anything, right? So
Right.
the people who figure it out will definitely start creating and then create a new economic model around it and start selling it as a business.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, it's interesting to know. I feel like there is this almost a story that is moving around in the market that account abstraction is the world that we live in right now. But in the way in which you put it, saying that hey, name services already create for these facilities that we wanted, but it's a little more than that, right? Like I think with every bit being a contract, social recovery, and all of those other features that custodians could provide to be able to be provided from a non-custodial side of things. I think just kind of double clicking on Prashant's question, it was that does MetaMask itself stand to a place where it has to make a choice between EOA and AA, or is it that hey, let us stay the platform, let the market decide that this with the snaps features that okay, tell me what if you guys want to build it, go ahead. This is how you do it. So curious to know, because this I feel affects the wallet at the base level, and interested to know how you look at it. Is it like a fundamental change, or is it that hey, we are the platform, you guys can go ahead and do what you want?
See, that's what I'm saying, right? I mean, if the technology or if the concept becomes the new norm, then everybody has to change. Everybody has to adapt to it. So we'll wait and watch. Again, I don't want to talk on behalf of the core, MetaMask engineering team and capabilities. But I feel, if this is the way that we all have to operate, then we have to operate.
Then
there's no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would push more on that, but at the same time, like I think I've been on at least 4 different startup calls where everyone is like, "We are living in the account abstraction world." I'm like, guys, it's not even here yet. What are you talking about?
Oh man, yeah, buzzwords as they call, right? Yeah, definitely.
EIPs and Vitalik papers are the source of every new buzzword that happens in this space. But anyway, I think we should move on to the.
Yeah. There's one final point here, right? Raghu, I think this is more for us as well, right? Like from a venture standpoint, when I'm also thinking of like, okay, a startup comes in, they're trying to build something which is on the periphery of a wallet, right? Wallet is kind of like a gateway for like most users in the world, and it will be like the discoverability platform pretty much. Now, when someone wants to add certain features which are peripheral, it's always a question on whether like this is a product on its own or whether it's just a feature, right? If it's just a feature, it's very difficult to back, even though you want it to succeed, right? So with whatever like coming up on Snaps, for instance, that is a great platform to build on now. Like I'm kind of like backing an app on iPhone App Store, but it needs to have a revenue model of its own, which is also something that is extractive from within Snaps.
Yeah, 100% agree. And now that I have a little more education on what Snaps is, I'll give you an example of a company that we recently spoke to. There's this, and I don't mind naming them. They're super popular, very very used. There's a company called Delegate Cash, which you guys should check out. And they're essentially this protocol that allows a base wallet to delegate the identity of that base wallet to a burner wallet, and that burner wallet essentially allows you to claim airdrop, interact with contracts without actually compromising the assets within the
Yeah.
base wallet. This delegate cache, a 3-member team, is currently accounting for $450 million worth assets on, on that platform. So technically, I think the time for investing in a new wallet has become, I mean, there is a very, very, very narrow use case that perhaps it makes sense for, but
Yep.
largely general purpose wallets don't make sense. The periphery which we are investing in, right? I think the use cases that can attract this sort of TAM, which is available, really makes it interesting from a venture standpoint. And maybe, who knows, maybe both you and I will be discussing a snap later on
Yeah.
in a couple of months, saying maybe we should invest in this. That's when the platform is really succeeding. That
Correct.
the features on top of it are investable and are capable of capturing market share.
Yeah, and it looks like I might have certain issues with the UI itself of MetaMask, but it definitely seems more at the forefront of how wallets are evolving.
No. Speak for yourself. I love MetaMask. Okay.
I use MetaMask, so but because Vijay is there, I had to get that across.
No, because I still remember, like, everybody keeps saying, "Oh, MetaMask UX is broken." I'm like, what are you guys talking about? It's awesome. I love it. Right? And I realized this one thing, that because it is so functional, I am willing to go through the hoops that the UX puts me through, and because I have done it, the switching cost to another wallet that may be simpler is next to impossible. So I keep telling the guys this, that if there is value, the UX actually is secondary. And in that sense, I absolutely love MetaMask.
People solve for the UX in separate ways as well, right? For monitoring the portfolio, I can use my Zapper or DBank or Zerion. I don't need to interact with MetaMask directly, right? So that takes away that problem, which I had probably a few years ago, right? So it's great. I'm conscious of time. Yeah,
I can see Vijay taking notes right now. Prashant said this on this podcast. I'll take care of it later.
No issues, man. It's all recorded. I can listen to any time.
But Vijay, regardless of that, if MetaMask does an airdrop, you should not use this against me, okay? Just mention it. Not no like issues. You have any control, but just okay. Let's just quickly, go to the second largest. Well, I don't know if it's the second largest, but the second most popular product to come out of the Consensys net, right? At least in my mind, which is Infura. If you can just start with like a quick, layman explanation of what Infura does, so people can understand where it fits in the stack and what it does.
Okay, so this again one of my favorite example. You'll maybe like literally laugh at me when I say this, but I'm sharing this with you guys. So we all again love mobile phones, right? So how do I call you? I just take my mobile phone, type in the number, and then call. Right? The call originates in my mobile phone and then goes somewhere else and then comes to you behind the scenes, right? So nobody knows what's happened behind the scenes, right? So there's a huge network, infrastructure, telecom devices, blah blah blah, and all that. So with Ethereum or Infura, you want to do a transaction from Metamask. All you care about is, okay, you specify the amount that you want to transfer from one account to another account, and then sign the transaction and then say send transfer or send. You don't worry about what happens behind the scenes, right? So behind the scenes, there is like a bunch of things happening. There is a huge infrastructure which is enabling MetaMask or as an user you to actually successfully complete a transaction, or if there is a problem, fail the transaction. So that infrastructure provider, one of the infrastructure provider is Infura. So basically what we do is we run handful of nodes. When I say handful, really big handful of nodes to make sure, we have sufficient capacity to support all the transactions that we get from the ecosystem players on daily basis. So that, as developers and ecosystem builders and business owners, you don't have to worry about maintaining the infrastructure to run your nodes and then develop APIs on top of it and things like that. So it's very simple actually. Just one line of code through which you get your API key access, plug that into your smart contract or your scripting code, and that's all you need to do. And I think with respect to Infura, there's a big history behind how everything originated. I'll share that as well. Infura actually was a child's play in DevCon 2 in Geneva. So
Wow.
there's trial and experimental thing for hackathon for the hackers to start using RPC so that they can focus on writing smart contracts and other problems, not focus on setting up
Wow.
nodes.
That's like
So
a
we have
reverse.
come.
It's, it's the first time I'm hearing a hackathon organizer hacking something for the participants to do well with, and then that kind of blooming into Infura. Infura is actually,
Yes.
I'd say, when we do our founder surveys, like every second person is using Infura, and especially if you're an EVM, then no brainer, right?
Yep. So just to extend that, right? So recently we are also moving into non-EVM chains.
Hmm.
I think the first chain that we launched was Aurora, near protocol,
Yeah.
right, with
Yep.
Aurora, and the most recent was Celo or Celo, how you want to call it, CELO. So you'll see again. I don't want to give spoilers, but you'll see like few more chains, non-EVM chains, coming into the market this year. You have to wait and watch. From the timing perspective, the roadmap perspective. But slowly we are going into the global play, right? So we started with EVM. So now, since Metamask is also, trying to get into the non-EVM space, so it makes sense as a node provider, and we also get into a non-EVM space. I think we see value in it from an
Mhm.
ecosystem growth perspective and what we want to do in this industry.
Is it fair to say Consensys truly now believes that the world is going to be multi-chain then?
Oh my God, Prash, you beat me to that by 1 second. I was going to ask that question.
So I'll answer this in a little different way, right? One of the most common problem in any blockchain that we have now is interoperability. So either we solve the interoperability between EVM chains or non-EVM chains, the benefits are larger,
Mm.
right? So right now, I think we are close towards writing successful bridges for EVM or non-EVM chains, making sure they're working, and few things are getting hacked in the industry. We see it in the news and all that. I think if we have to be successful as an ecosystem, right, as a large player or anybody who comes in new, the interoperability factor seems to be a very critical space. It doesn't mean that you cannot just survive with EVM, right? You can just literally survive with EVM, and there'll be use cases, there'll be chains, there'll be applications, which will just be in EVM, right? But I think we also see with the snaps idea, how a non-EVM and EVM chains can work together, just by building a quick feature. So why not go into a non-EVM capability on the node providing side as well? Because it's going to benefit us as well as the ecosystem players in a large scale. Because a lot of the customers that come to us saying, "Hey, we are launching a new project, in an other chain. When will you guys be, ready with the chain?" The reason behind that is, right, the customers do not want to work with multiple vendors, multiple invoices, multiple billing, payments, disputes, and watching multiple monitors with all the tracking, what's happening in the ecosystem with failures and updates and all that. So we also listen to our customers. The more the customers wants us to develop something, then we listen to the customers. So it's part of the customer obsession story that we have.
I think that's actually very true to the ethos of blockchain, right? Like, I think whatever your points of views on which L1s, which L2s, which ecosystems, the user honestly doesn't care about what is sitting behind it. And if your users are on another chain, as a developer, you should be there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Infura supporting that vision, I think, is more um, telling to me than the multi-chain future story as such. It could be a consequence. I will not take the fun away from this conversation, but But I think it is. I really think that that's such a pragmatic approach. I think every time we are asked this question, is the future multi-chain? Is it, how does it matter, right? Like,
Yep.
where are the users? Are they finding value there? If they are, then serve them,
Right.
right? As opposed to planning it because some arbitrary future is going to look like that, right?
Yep. So on that note, I also let you guys know. So right now we have a ZK EVM testnet.
Yep.
So which is pretty fascinating, and we are seeing more and more users want to onboard into the private beta. So I think ZK EVM, is also one of the future, right? So
100%. In fact,
I
that
think
is something that. Sorry, this seems
no, go ahead, go
pertinent
ahead.
in the conversation of ZK. I think we're coming across projects like HyperOracle that recently launched essentially a decentralized ZK-based RPC provider. And the conversation about using ZK here is that it, in essence, solves for performance without having to, give away, compromising on decentralization or security. Is that something that you see Infura becoming at some point? That there is a decentralized version of it as well, because I see the sense in why an RPC provider perhaps needs to be centralized, because you want reliability as high as
Yep.
possible. But does
Okay.
ZK help you go that direction? Is my question.
Okay, so there are two things in here, right? So first, let me cover the decentralization, right? So during ETH Bogota, so we announced something called decentralized Infura. So what does decentralized Infura do is create a open community, right? Invite all the node providers or node operators to join the community, and then bring in decentralization, because after the merge, there's a general talk in the industry that some of the major players just hold the majority of the validators, and even the node providers are like majority of the centralized seeing that everything's that's how we all operate. So what we have done so far is we have created a white paper, we have created some infrastructure plans, we have invited around 10. We do have like so many signups for the private beta for decentralized Infura, and we invited like 10 customers who we think could be the right partners to start working with on the decentralization journey. And right now there is kind of some kind of a high level architecture. Things are like getting materialized for a soft launch or a hard launch sometime this year, right? Which could be soon. And once the decentralization part is taken care, so then EVM, ZK EVM is just the beginning stages for us, right? So we just launched a testnet. You won't believe the first 9 days we had around like 89 million test transactions.
Wow.
Just in 9 days internally. This is again internally, right? So people started very curious. So there is a long way for us to decide on how ZK EVM will play a very important part in the decentralization. But one thing I can tell you now is the ZK EVM offering could be part of the decentralized Infura offering as well.
Got it.
So I think it's all like part of more like complementing each other kind of factors, where one could complement the other more towards decentralization, as well as from one security, scalability, and who knows, if we find good interoperability solutions, and that could lead us to giving everything in one stack, rather than people going into multiple providers, multiple stacks, and then the same issues that we spoke about in the last questions that we discussed, right? So it looks very promising at this time, right? But again, there's a lot of things that we have to work, but the R&D team has been like really good in focusing on what they are good at. And I've done like some test transactions. It looks very fascinating, at least to me, because I started from the protocol side, and when I started my blockchain journey. So, but like I said, we have to wait and watch. But ZK EVM looks like the future to me.
So much low-key alpha here, no, Prash?
Yeah, exactly. So technically, you're like this is where Infura and Alchemy, where this is where you have your pocket network. Now you're kind of moving from here slowly towards this side, right? In terms of decentralizing the overall infrastructure. Interesting. Now, for Infura itself, right now, like the stack again, just to kind of like reiterate that, right? You have the chain, RPC, data and indexing, dApps, and users, right? For you guys, you're clearly horizontally integrating as well through other EVMs, sorry, non-EVMs, etc. But do you guys also plan to go vertical, right? Are you planning to go more into the data indexing phase as well? Because you guys clearly are running the RPC node, right? So you do have access to a lot of this data as well. So is that something you guys will be looking to integrate into?
Yeah. So
Before you answer that question, I hope you do, because working with existing indexes is hard. So I hope there's something there.
They don't say that.
I have to say what is true, Pa.
So, see, I mean, if you look at the core features of Infura, it's been around for a long time. So we've been very cautious about releasing new features with Infura for the same reason, right? Because we do not want to release features because of the competition. Maybe okay, my competitor has like 10 different features than what I have, right? Okay, let's go build all the 10 features, right? At least for a feature priority. That's not what we are doing these days, right? If you look at, there is definitely feature parity gap issues, which is very public in nature. But when we start, moving towards filling in this gap or like adding new features, what are the things that we can do, right? Definitely bring in trace capabilities, right? Archive, which is already available, and indexing, which is just a matter of time to start, indexing data and then provide it as an offering. I think these are like part of the roadmap that we have. There is no doubt about it. But what takes priority, right? What comes first? What comes second? What comes third, right? That is in line with what the customers are asking for. So tomorrow, say we have an XYZ customer, who is one of the major user of Infura, wants to have trace enabled or trace capability, then we'll work with the customer to enable the trace for them, and then learn from them and make it what can be done better and more easier for customers, rather than we deciding what customers should be doing. I think that's the model that we're taking. So all that we spoke about already exist at some capacity, either testing or developing or in the pipeline. But release wise, unless there is a customer need who is pushing hard, we will not be making an announcement. But we are almost there in like every other corner that you can think of from a use case perspective.
That is music to my ears. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. I think we are pretty close to closing this as well, right? But one thing we definitely wanted to understand, Vijay, from you, and I think both Raghu and I have like separately spoken about this with Manish as well. So Consensys has like this massive push into India now, right? So just would love to understand both for us and for our viewers, etc. If any details you can share in terms of what this looks like, what are your plans for India, both on the hiring side, expansion side of etc.
Yeah, and
Okay.
just before you get into that, sorry, I keep interrupting like this, but we really missed you in India, because 2017 and 18 Consensys had presence in India, and it was I do remember some really good initiatives at that time,
Okay.
and then to see you guys come back, it's quite encouraging.
Sure. I'll just try to keep it brief, considering time as well. So we do have 3 people working in India as full-time employees. Okay. I think 1 is in Delhi, 2 is in Mumbai. It's definitely, it's just not Consensys. Any ecosystem player who wants to be successful, definitely needs presence in India, right? Because it's a no-brainer for any software development company, just not the crypto company, right? Just any software development company needs to have a presence in India because of the nature of work and the skill set that we have in India. No doubt about it. In fact, that's one of the reasons why we are in East India, even though we had only like 2.5 weeks to plan and then be present. It's not that we have been ignoring India all the time. It's again about priorities. What we want to do from a company perspective. So definitely this year there is much more focus. And as we speak today, I think is a wrap on all the IITs meeting together in IIT Kanpur. There was a Hackfest happening. In fact, I just saw some messages about the number of snaps that we collected as for evaluation for for a bounty for the IT hackathon. So similar to that, we are looking at partnerships and looking at ecosystem support, because we don't have much presence in India, and I think there is a plan that is being put together which is not public yet. So as we move into this year, you will see more and more news about Consensys being in India, coming to India, or like participating at some capacity in all these hackathons, buildathons, or other conferences, or even like hiring. We have to wait and watch on how everything falls into place, and again, it's an exciting place to be. There's no doubt that it is going to make a big difference, but what is not very clear to me at this time to share.
Even for us, watching ETH India, having been in the Indian ecosystem for a while, was mind blowing. Like, it's just so much builder energy in one place. I was like, how can you not be here, right? Like, and it's really good to see you guys here.
Cool.
Good stuff. No, I mean, also, it's great to have you here, have Consensys India. If there is any way that either of us or our institutes can also help you guys, then do let us know. But Vijay, this has been great having you here, and hopefully we can do a few more down the line. And all the best with everything at Consensys, and thanks for your time. Raghu, any final words from you before I hand it over to Vijay?
No, I'm not going to say anything. It was very nicely done. Thanks,
so as I mentioned,
loved having you over.
Thanks guys. Again, as I mentioned, it's my pleasure, and always love talking to the fellow Indian men. So thanks for having me, and all the best to you. Let's keep in touch.
Thank you.